I know that he was really highly regarded in the organization, just character-wise. I know they all loved him and they're all cheering for him. Unfortunately, he just got there at the wrong time when the cupboard was pretty empty, so he really didn't get a chance to really be successful because they just didn't have the pieces in place around him. When you play quarterback at the NFL level, I mean, all the quarterbacks are talented. You get drafted in the first round, you're a talented guy. And there are certain guys that can transcend a little bit, but man, it is so dependent on the pieces they put in place around you, and the support you get from an organization. And so to see some of these, redemption stories from some of these quarterbacks is, I love to see it.
Let me ask you this, Drew. Okay. Like I said, I rooted for you. Seeing you go up against Brett Favre in the Super Bowl. Niner fans were rooting for you. Trust me, we were rooting for you against him. But you're most known for the whole Tom Brady thing, where you get knocked out, Tom comes in, and history kind of becomes itself. We've got this situation with quarterbacks going on right now, and I'm just curious, from your perspective, if you had an opportunity to talk to Brock Purdy and kind of what's going on right now with him, what would your advice be to him?
So, the best advice, two pieces of advice. Number one, I was just saying this, talking with a kid that was doing a project for school, but always keep in mind that even when things aren't perfect, you're still getting paid to play a game. So nobody gets to feel sorry for us, right? Which it's hard to have that perspective sometimes. And then beyond that, man, if you just handle yourself properly, then there will continue to be other opportunities. For me, because I didn't completely screw up that situation and blow it up. First of all, we ended up winning a Super Bowl, but second, then when other teams came looking, they knew that I would had decent character and that there were other opportunities there. So I'm not saying that's Brock's done in San Francisco. I don't think that's probably the case, but you just handle yourself like a pro and put the team first. And then no matter what, you come out of it, with other opportunities and knowing you did the right thing.
And Drew, I guess what I also want to know is like the conversations like the coach is having with you right now. Like that's where a lot of Niner fans are going like, what is Kyle Shanahan saying to Brock Purdy and vice versa? Because it's a week-to-week injury.
Yeah.
It's an injury people like don't really know a whole hell of a lot here in the Bay Area because it's a turf toe. It could be re-aggravated. It's not like it's a hamstring or a soft tissue or something like that. It's a toe injury. So they're being cautious about it. But what were the conversations like you were having with Belichick at the time when you felt good to go? And was he like, we're going to keep you on the bench right now for a little bit?
Well, first of all, I think they need to rebrand turf toe because it sounds like it's not serious, but it's actually a very serious injury. It's pretty bad, but it just sounds like, oh, you stubbed your toe, get back in there, you went. But coaches are so focused during the season on just trying to win the next game. That there's not a whole lot of time. I mean, football's not a touchy-feely sport. It's not about your feelings. It's just about trying to win the next game, and that's what they're focused on. And I'm sure that's where Kyle is. That's where Belichick was. It didn't mean I was happy with the situation, but it was just and then part of the situation with me was that I was out for so long. Before I was able to practice that, it was like, there just aren't enough reps to get two quarterbacks ready to play. So you really have to make that call. And so Belichick obviously made a huge mistake playing that Brady kid because he never turned out to be anything. Unfortunately, I taught him too well, man.
Is there a part of you where it's just like, man, like these guys, every time people reach out to you, it's to talk about what I'm sure was one of your more difficult moments in the history of your career and life to that point.
Yeah.
Like, and to have to revisit that, like I'm being like real here. Like it takes a lot of humility to have to talk about that a lot. Just like, have you been able to get over that whole thing? And the fact that you did the roast of all that, the roast of Tom Brady on Netflix and make fun of him and poke fun at him. I don't know what I'm trying to ask here, but the fact that you get to talk about it all the time.
I know what you're trying to say. Yeah, I mean, the only part that's frustrating is that I actually had a pretty nice career.
You did
When I
great
retired,
career. Yeah.
when I retired from the league, there were five guys that had thrown for more yards than I had in the history of the league: Fran Tarkenton, Dan Marino, John Elway, Warren Moon, and Favre. That was the entire list of guys that had thrown for more yards than I had when I retired. So, I had a nice career, and I'm not just being immodest about it, but I'm just pointing out that, that's the only part that maybe rubs me the wrong way a little bit. It's like, hey, there's more to the story rather than just I was the guy before Tom. I actually had a pretty nice run. When I retired, I was actually the all-time single season passing leader for all three teams, for the Pats, for the Bills, and for the Cowboys. Obviously, everybody's throwing for 1,000,000 yards now, so those things all go by the wayside. So, but look, as I said earlier, though, nobody needs to have a pity party for Drew Bledsoe ever. Look, man, I got to live out my childhood dream. I was the first overall draft pick in the NFL. I got to be an NFL quarterback for 14 years. Did it go perfect? No, it didn't go perfect, but man, what a blessed life. And anybody that wants to feel sorry for me, you're barking up the wrong tree.
Drew, what incredible, just insights on life and perspective. It's really touching. I mean that sincerely. You ended up coming back in and playing in that AFC Championship game. I was talking to these guys because I'm a little older than some of these guys. I'm like, hey, guys, Brady got knocked out of that game, and Bledsoe came into the AFC Championship game.
Well, hold on. They really shouldn't even been in that game. It should have been the Oakland Raiders at the time. But we won't get into the Tuck rule, Drew. Obviously, didn't happen to you. I'm still salty about it, Drew. Come on, that was a fumble. Come on.
I was just talking about that Raiders game with some buddies the other night. You were big New England fans, and and I think even Tom even acknowledges now that it was a fumble, and but for me, the crazy part of that was that year had been obviously had been emotional and painful, and all of that stuff, and then when that fumble happened, I just took a knee on the sidelines, like, okay, it's okay now. This thing is finally over. And we can move on and get on to next year and come back and compete for the job. And then when they overturned it, then I was like, well, shoot, we're going to the Super Bowl. But it was nice of Tommy to sprain his ankle in that AFC Championship game, though, so at least let me come back in and get a little action.
I always say, these seasons are like marathons, whether it's youth sports, whether it's high school, professionals on a whole nother level. And there are points where guys get injured or they have to step away from the team, and the team, it moves on. Life keeps going. And the team you come back to is different than the team that you left. As that season went on, could you feel the shift in leadership? Because you were the man in New England before the injury. Did you feel that in real time? What was that like?
One of the big things that happened that season, because I was the franchise quarterback. I was kind of the guy, and when I went down, I think there was a sense of accountability, I think, from the rest of the team, because at that point, Tom wasn't the Tom Brady that he became. He was just a young, skinny kid, and so that Super Bowl was more about defense and special teams. And then Tom, did a nice job, but he was not the guy that was carrying the team. I think that was really the start, of the way that they went on to become the dynasty that they became. Was just accountability across the board from everybody. It was not about superstars. It was about everybody stepping up and carrying the load. And then obviously Tommy went on to become what he became. But that first year, that was more about defense and special teams. And then later on down the road, then Tom carried a whole bunch more of the load.
Drew, which was more difficult for you? Because we're seeing Mac Jones. He similar to you. He was a high pick, and he came with expectations, had some immediate success, and then he's had to reinvent himself over the last couple of years, and specifically this year with Kyle Shanahan. What was more difficult for you, being the high pick coming out or having to reinvent yourself on the fly as you've kind of face planted in your first stop?
Yeah, So, I mean, shoot, I was in New England. I was there for, it was 9 years in. So, you went through the trials and tribulations there. But the downside to being a really high draft pick, and I was the first pick, is that the team that's picking you has earned the right to pick there by being awful.
Yeah.
So, it's a blessing and a curse to be drafted high as a quarterback, because you're going to a team that was not very good the year before. But that first stint, we made it to the Super Bowl after year four. So we got it turned around pretty quick there. But then, the challenge of going to a new team and going to Buffalo, as an older guy, was a different kind of challenge. Came in, and rather than being the young guy, I was kind of the old guy, and really had to step up and be more of a vocal leader. When you get to a team and you're 21, you just show up, shut up, and do your work. Until you earn the right to speak up. But getting to Buffalo, I had to take a little bit more of a vocal leadership role right out of the gates, and get to know a new team and get to know a new place. So they're different challenges. But I would say, if you're asking which one's more difficult, it's definitely the start of your career, especially as a high draft pick, where you're going to a team that was not very good the year before. That's a huge challenge in every possible way. I was just telling somebody, they were asking about the same thing, and when I was 21, and all of a sudden you step into into the huddle with grown men, guys that have families and investment portfolios and all this stuff. And I was in my dorm room, 5 months prior to that. And all of a sudden I've got to step into a huddle with some grown ass men, and be their leader. That's a big challenge, but man, it sure was cool.
Yeah.
I loved the challenge.
First overall pick, 1993 draft. I wasn't even born yet. I was about to be in next to the month. So there you go.
Oh, God.
93, great year for me. You're obviously Patriots Hall of Famer, all-timer over there. Did you have any, conversations, interviews? Did you talk to Mac Jones at all when he was coming out of Alabama, and the Patriots obviously drafted him in the first round?
Yeah, no, I just got to meet him one time. I was back there for a game, in his pregame, so not a lot of time to talk. But he was in the training room. Got to meet him, say hello. I know that he was really highly regarded in the organization, just character-wise. I know they all loved him, and they're all cheering for him. Unfortunately, he just got there at the wrong time when the cupboard was pretty empty, so he really didn't get a chance to really be successful, because they just didn't have the pieces in place around him when he was there. And so it's, I do love, some of these stories that we're seeing around the league with some of these quarterbacks that, were in bad situations and now are having some success. Sam Darnold in Minnesota. Now he's with the Seahawks, having a lot of success. Baker obviously is playing at an MVP level after being bounced around a few different places. So when you play quarterback at the NFL level, all the quarterbacks are talented. You get drafted in the first round, you're a talented guy. And there are certain guys that can transcend a little bit, but man, it is so dependent on the pieces they put in place around you, and the support you get from an organization. And so to see some of these, redemption stories from some of these quarterbacks I love to see it. It makes me happy.